Hello, this is going to be lesson A2, factoring trinomials. Basically, we're going to factor things that have three terms. So every time you try to factor this, you should always ask, is there any number that goes into 4, 12, and 5? And the answer would be no, there isn't. So next, you would look at the first and last digit of the trinomial, and on the side over here you write those numbers and you multiply them. So 4 times 5 would be 20, and then what you want to do is make a list of numbers that give me 20 when you multiply. You can use a calculator to help you to do that. Basically, I'm going to turn on the calculator and divide 20. Well, the first one is always easy because it's 1. 20 divided by 1 is 20. Then 20 divided by 2 would be 10. And then 20 divided by 3 gives you a decimal, so that you know that 3 doesn't work. And then 20 divided by 4 equals 5. Okay, you don't have to use a calculator, but if it helps, you can use the calculator. Okay, alright, now that we have this list of numbers, we're going to focus our attention on the middle term, and we're going to look for any pairs that when added or subtract gives me the middle term 12. So let's take a look. 5 plus 4, does that give me 12? No, 5 plus 4 gives me 9. How about 5 minus 4? Does it give me 12? No, it doesn't. So we know that these guys don't work. Now how about 10 and 2? Well, 10 plus 2 gives me 12. So let's go ahead and put a star. And how about 1 and 20? Well, 1 and 20 does not work because 20 plus 1 is 21 and 20 minus 1 is 19, and it does not give me 12. So I know the only one that works is going to be 2 and 10. Alright, now that we have that, we're going to focus again our attention to the middle term, and we notice that is a positive number. So that means the biggest digits here would be positive. So that means the 10 is a positive. Now that we decided that, remember we want a 12, so positive 10 plus 2 or minus 2 will give me 12. In other words, what sign should I put here for 2 to give me a positive 12? Well, the answer would be positive, because positive 2 and positive 10 add up to positive 12. Final check and final question. When you take these signs that we wrote right here and you multiply a positive times a positive, does it give me the same sign as the last term of the trinomial? And yes, it does. A positive times a positive equals a positive. So that works. So that means you're going to come over here and you're going to copy the first term. When you get to the second term, you're going to split it into these two numbers, positive 2x and positive 10x. And you're going to bring down the last term. So this would be positive 5. Okay? Once you have that, now we're going to group them. And we ask ourselves, one number, what can I factor from the first two? Well, I can factor out a 2x. And if I factor out a 2x, 4x squared divided by 2x is 2x. And 2x divided by 2x is 1. Now let's do the same thing for the last two. So let's put a positive. What can I factor from 10x and 5? The answer is 5. And if I factor out of 5, what I'm left with, 10x divided by 5 is 2x. And 5 divided by 5 is 1. Alright, now that I have that, what do these are two terms, what do they have in common? They have in common 2x plus 1. And if I remove the 2x plus 1 from both terms, what am I going to have left? Well, if I remove the 2x plus 1 from the first term, I'm going to have 2x. And if I remove 2x plus 1 from the second term, I'm going to have plus 5. And so there you have the answers for this factorization. Now you may ask, is this correct? Well, what we can do is, and I'm going to bring a scratch paper here, is we can multiply this back and see if we get this original problem. So let's see. I have 2x plus 1 and 2x plus 5. And let's multiply. We're going to multiply by using something called FOIL. I don't know if you remember. And FOIL, the way it works is the following. FOIL stands for first times first. So we're going to do first times first equals 4x squared. Then we're going to do the O, which stands for the outside times the outside. So 2x times 5 is positive 10x. And then we're going to do the I, which stands for the inside. So 1 times 2x is 2x. And I write the answer on the inner box. So now that I have the inner box and the outer box, I combine them. So 2x plus 10x is 12x. And then I'll do the last one, which would be positive 1 times positive 5 equals positive 5. Alright, so that's what we get. And if you notice, that's the same trinomial that we started out with. So this is a confirmation that this answer is correct. Okay? Alright, let's go ahead and do letter B using the same strategies and steps. Basically, I'm going to take the first and last number. But before anything, ask yourself, can I factor anything from all three? The answer is no. So let's go ahead and go do the strategy. The strategy is you take the first times the last and you get 6. And what two numbers give me 6? 1 and 6, 2 and 3. And that's it. I know that's it because first I start with the 1. 6 divided by 1 is 6, and then comes 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then the next number on the list would be 3, but 3 is already there. You know we stop the list then. Okay? Alright, now let's put our attention to the middle term. And we notice the middle term is a negative. So that means the biggest digits here are going to be negative. And if this is negative 3 and I want a negative 5, what should this be? This should be a negative 2 because negative 2 and negative 3 gives me negative 5. Same thing with negative 6. What should the 1 be to give me a negative 5? And the answer is a positive, because positive 1 minus 6 will give me a negative 5. Alright, now that I have these, and I know that both of them are possibilities, I need to check the final step, or final question, which is, when I multiply these signs, does it give me this one? A negative times a negative, does it give me a positive? Yes, it does. A negative times a positive gives me a positive? No, this doesn't work. So that way we know that this is going to be our answer. This is going to be the numbers we're going to use to get our answer. Alright, now that we know that, let's copy this down. So let's copy that 6x squared. That split the negative 5x into negative 2x and negative 3x, and let's bring down the 1. Okay, now we're going to do the pairs. And what can I factor from the first pair? 6x squared and negative 2x. Well, I can factor out of 2x. So that means 3x squared divided by 2x is 3x. And negative 2x divided by 2x is negative 1. And what can I factor from the last two? Well, basically I have a minus there. There's nothing I can factor, so let's just put a 1. And negative 3x divided by negative 1 is positive 3x. And positive 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. And would you look at that? I have 3x minus 1 and 3x minus 1. So let's write that down. And if I remove the 3x minus 1, what I'm left with? I'll be left with 2x, negative 1, I'm sorry, I'll be left with 2x and negative 1, and that will be my answer. Alright, let's bring a scratch paper here and just verify that this answer is correct by applying FOIL like we did on the last problem. So we draw our boxes, and the first times the first gives us 6x squared. The outer ones give us negative 3x, so we write on the outer box. The inner ones give us negative 2x, so we write that in the inner box. We combine them to give us our middle term, negative 5x. And negative 1 times negative 1 gives us positive 1. And is that the original problem? And if you notice, yes it is. So that means that the answer is correct. Alright, so let's proceed to the next problem. Letter C. Is there anything I can factor from all three terms? And the answer is no. So that means we're going to multiply 35 times 4 over here on the side. And 35 times 4 is 140. And using a calculator, you can calculate one number goes into 140. So I start with the 1. So 1 goes into 140 times. How about 2? 2 goes into 140 70 times. How about 3? 3 doesn't go. 4 goes into 140 35 times. How about 5? 5 goes to 140 28 times. How about 6? 6 does not go. How about 7? 7 goes into 140 20 times. How about 8? Okay, if you cannot do that in your head, you can always use a calculator. And basically what I'm doing is doing 140 divided by 8, and I press enter, and it gives me a decimal, so I know 8 is not part of the list. So go on to the next number, 180 divided by 9, and the answer is 15.5. Again, I know that the 9 doesn't go there. How about the 10? And the answer is yes. It would be 10 and 14. So 140 divided by 10 is 14. Okay, then I try 11, it doesn't work. 12 does not work. 13 doesn't work. And then the next number will be 14, so 14 is on the list, so we're done. Okay, now we're looking for the numbers that gives us the middle term -4. Well, the only thing that gives us 4 over here would be 14 and 10. We notice that the middle term is a negative number, so that means the biggest sign here, the biggest digit here will be negative. And if this is -14 and I need to get 4, then this would have to be a positive, because -14 plus 10 gives you a -4. Final check is the multiplying these signs. A negative times a positive. Does it give me a positive? No, it doesn't. So that means that this fails. And because I don't have any other option that will give me a 4, then I'll write that this is a prime number, meaning you cannot factor. Okay? Alright. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to letter D on the back side of the paper. Okay, now we're going to do letter D. And basically letter D, we ask ourselves what number goes into, what can I factor from all three terms over here? And the answer is nothing. So basically we're going to take number 12 and number 5 and multiply over here on the side. So 12 times 5 equals 60. What numbers goes into 60? The answer is 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 10, 4 and 15, 5, I'm sorry, not 3 and 10, 3 and 20, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, and then 6, 6 and 10, 7 does not go into 60, 8 does not, 9 does not, and then the next number will be number 10, and 10 is already on the list. So we're done with our list. Okay. Now we're going to look for a pair of numbers that gives me 17. So the pair of numbers would be 5 and 12, and also 3 and 20. So because 17 is positive, so that means my biggest digit is going to be positive, and positive 12 to give me 17, I need 5 to be positive, and positive 20, I need 3 to be negative, so it gives me 17. Alright, now the final check is the last sign over here. A positive and a positive does not give me a negative, so this is out of the picture. A positive and negative gives me a negative, so this is the one that I want to use. So now I'm going to copy the first term, so 12x squared, and 17 I'm going to break down as negative 3x plus 20x, and I'm going to bring down the negative 5. Alright, now that I have that, I'm going to group them, and I ask myself, what can I factor from the first two? The answer is 3x. So 12x squared divided by 3x is 4x, and negative 3x divided by 3x is negative 1. And I'm going to bring down the positive. What can I factor from 20x and 5? The answer is 5. So 20x divided by 5 will be 4x, and negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. Now with that, I'm left with two terms, and what do they have in common? They have in common 4x minus 1. And if I remove the 4x minus 1 from each term, I'm left with 3x plus 5. And that will be my answer. And again, you can check the answer by foiling, or you can just trust that you did it correctly. Alright, let's go on to the next problem. Next problem is going to be letter E. And again, you start by asking, can I factor anything from all three terms? And looking at this, I cannot factor anything from all three terms. So I'm going to take the first two numbers, 16 times 9. And we know that equals 144. And we break it down. Two numbers give me 144 is 1 and 12. I'm sorry, 1 and 144. 2 and 72. Okay, I'm going to bring the calculator because I need some help here. Alright, 144 divided by 3 will be 48. So 144 divided by 4 will be 36. 144 divided by 5 does not work. 144 divided by 6 gives me 24. Divided by 7 does not work. 144 divided by 8 will be 18. 144 divided by 9 will be 16. 144 divided by 10 doesn't work. 144 divided by 11 does not work. 144 divided by 12, I get 12. So now we see that the numbers start to repeat. So I know I'm finished. Okay, I am looking for something that will give me 24. So out of these pairs, the only one that gives me 24 is 12 and 12. So the sign of 12, the biggest digits, is going to be the same as the middle term, so it'll be positive. And positive 12 to give me positive 24 needs to be positive. Final check, a positive times a positive. Does it give me the last sign there? Yes, it does. So I'm ready to come over here and substitute or break it down. So I copy the first term. I split the 24 as 12xy plus 12xy, and I bring down the positive 9y squared. And notice that here is xy, so I put xy and xy. Alright, let's group the first two and then the last two. Looking at the first two, what can I factor? I can factor out a 4, and also I can factor out an x. So that means this 16x squared divided by 4x becomes 4x, and 12xy divided by 4x becomes 3y. On the second one, I'm going to bring down the positive. What can go into 12 and 9? The answer is 3. And I can also factor out a y. So 12xy divided by 3y will be 4x. And 9y squared divided by 3y equals 3y. Now look at these. What do they have in common? Have in common 4x plus 3y. And what's left? We have 4x plus 3y. So that is our answer. Okay, Let's proceed to the last problem of example number 1. First of all, ask yourself, can I factor anything from all three? And I see that I can factor a 3 from all three, as well as a letter x. So 6xy to the third divided by 3x becomes 2. I can also factor out a y, because there's y's on all of them. So I can factor 3, an x, and a y. So 6xy cubed divided by 3xy will be 2y squared. 33 divided by 3 gives me 11. The x cancel. Y squared divided by y is y. Negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6. The x cancel. The y cancel. So I'm just left with negative 6. Alright, we're just going to keep the 3xy here on the outside, and we're just going to focus attention on the trinomial inside the parentheses. So I have 2 and 6, so it'll be 2 times 6 equals 12. One numbers give me 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and that's it. So one pair will give me 11. So it'll be 1 and 12. Because 11 is positive, 12 will also be positive. And to give me 11, the 1 has to be a negative. And final check, a positive times a negative. Does it give me a negative? Yes, it does. So I come over here, and we're going to copy 2y squared. I'm going to break down 11y as negative 1y, positive 12y, and I'm going to break down the negative 6. Now we're going to group them. So let's copy 3xy, open bracket. One number or letter goes into both of these first two, and the answer is a y. So I can factor out a y from both. So 2y squared divided by y is 2y. Negative 1y divided by y is negative 1. Now what can I factor from the last two? I can factor out a 6, and please remember to bring down the positive there. So 12y divided by 6 is 2y. Negative 6 divided by 6 is negative 1. So now, keep writing down the 3xy. What do they have in common? They have in common 2y minus 1. And what can I factor? A y plus 6. So this concludes example number 1, okay, for lesson 2. Alright, very well. Now let's proceed and do example number 2. Example number 2 is similar to the example number 1. The only thing is that instead of having a number, we still have a number here, but is an invisible 1, but this strategy that I'm going to teach you right now is only works if there's a 1 there. So, and you pretty much start the same way as the ones before. Basically, you multiply 1 times 20, so 1 times 20 is 20. You break it down and you find out the numbers that give me 20, so 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3 does not work, 4 and 5, and the next number will be 5, so you're done. And you're looking for the number that gives you a 9, so it would be 4 and 5. And because 9 is positive here in the middle term, I'm going to put a positive for the biggest digit, and the 4 will be a positive to give you a 9. check positive and positive gives you a positive. That is correct. Now, instead of breaking down here, because there's a 1 here, all you have to do is open two sets of parentheses. Okay, this is x squared, so the square root of x squared is x, so x in x. And you take these numbers and you put it right there, positive 4 and positive 5. Alright? And basically, check this out. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 plus 5 is 9. And that's it. Okay, let's go to the next problem. We're going to do 1 times 22 is 22. What numbers give me 22? 1 and 22. 2 and 11. And that's it. Now, which one will give me a 13? 2 and 11. 13 is a negative, so the biggest digit is going to be a negative. And to give me negative 13, the 2 has to be a negative. Also check the signs. Negative and negative becomes a positive, so that is good. So go ahead and open two sets of parentheses. Square root of x squared is x. And we're going to put negative 2, negative 11. And as a final check, just do this. Negative 2 and negative 11 equals negative 13. Negative 2 times negative 11 equals positive 22. So that means this is good. Alright, let's go to the other side of the page. And alright, we're going to do the same thing. So it'll be 36. What numbers give me 36? 1 and 36. 2 and 18. 3 and 12. 4 and 9. 5 does not. And then we have 6 and 6. And is there anything that gives me 11? And the answer is no, I don't have anything that gives me 11. So that means this will be prime, because there's no way to factor this. Okay. Alright, let's go to the next one. The next one is going to be 1 times 40 is 40. What number gives me 40? 1 and 40. 2 and 20. 4 and 10. 5 and 8. Excuse me. And 6 does not. 7 does not. And then we have 8, so we're done. What two numbers give me 18? This would be 2 and 20. 18 is negative, so that means the biggest will be negative, and the 2 will be positive. A negative times a positive does give me a negative, so that means this works. So you're going to put Q and Q, and you're going to put plus 2 and minus 20. Plus 2 minus 20 gives me negative 18. Plus 2, positive 2 times negative 20 gives me a negative 40. So that's good. Let's try the next one. It's going to be 1 times 6 is 6. What numbers give me 6? 1 and 6. 2 and 3. And that's it. Let's look at the signs. Sign in the middle is negative, so that means the biggest digit has to be negative. And also notice that both of them gives me a 5. So negative 3 and negative 2 gives me a negative 5. Negative 6 and positive 1 gives me a negative 5. Now the sign, a negative and negative does not give me a negative, so cancel that out. A positive times a negative gives me a negative, so that works. So that will be my answer here. Positive 1, x minus 6. So that's my answer for this one. Alright, let's keep going. Let's do letter F now. We have 42, right? 1 times 42 is 42. This would be 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14, 4 does not, 5 does not, 6 and 7. And after 6 comes 7, so 7's already there. We're done. One number gives me 17. The only one that gives me 17 is 3 and 14. 17 is negative, so 14 is going to be negative, and that means 3 has to be negative. And final check, a negative times a negative, does it give me a negative? No. So that means that doesn't work. I have no other options that give me 17, so that means this will also be prime. Okay, the next one. When I look at this, is there anything I can factor from all three? And yes, I can factor out an x, so let's factor out that x. And by doing that, x cubed divided by x is x squared. Positive 3x squared divided by x becomes 3x. And negative 4x divided by x becomes negative 4. Now here on the side, we're going to write 1 times 4 is 4, so 1 and 4, 2 and 2. And that's it for my list of numbers. And I'm looking for a 3, so 1 and 4 is the one that gives me a 3. 3 is positive, so 4 is going to be positive, and the 1 is going to be a negative. And check the sign, positive and negative becomes a negative, so we're good. And then we're going to open two sets of parentheses. I'm going to put an x and an x, and I'm going to copy those numbers, negative 1, positive 4. And that's going to be our answer. Okay. Alright. Let me check something here. Alright, the next one, I just need to make a little correction. Your handouts are already corrected, it's just that this is a little bit older handout. Okay, now that it's corrected. Can I factor anything from all three? And the answer is yes. So let's factor out a 5. And also I can factor out x, and I can factor out 3x's because that is the smallest exponent. By doing that, I'm going to get, for the first term, I get x squared. Negative 25 x to the 4th divided by 5x cubed is negative 5x. Positive 30x cubed divided by 5 is positive 6. Alright, so that means I'm going to write 6 on the side here and write the numbers that give me 6, so 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and that's it. 5 is negative, so let's put a negative there, and that means the 2 will be also a negative, and here it will be a negative 6. And the 1 has to be a positive to give me a negative 5. So both of them are possible pairs. Now, final check. A negative times a negative gives me a positive. That is good. A negative times a positive does not give me a positive, so that doesn't work. So this will be the one that I'm going to use. 5x cubed, x minus 2, x minus 3. And that's my answer for this one. Alright, the last problem of example number 2. Can we factor anything from all three? The answer is yes, I can factor out a 2. So that means this becomes n squared minus 19n and plus 40. Now let's write here on the side the numbers that give me 40. So it'd be 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 3 dozen, 4 and 10, 5, and 8. And I believe that's it. And I'm looking for a number that gives me 19. And there's no pair of numbers that give me 19. So that means I cannot factor this. Okay, now, if we didn't have factored that number 2 right here, then yes, the answer would have been prime. But because we were able to factor a number 2, that means my answer for this factorization is this one right here. Okay? Alright? So, that's our answer. Okay, these are the assignment for 2. Please do these practice problems and then do these problems over here. Thank you very much for your time and have a great day. Goodbye.